everyone, it's time to read another chapter of The Haunting of Sunshine Girl. We are on Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Leather Jackets. Despite the lack of photography, visual arts class is quickly becoming my favorite part about life in Ridgemont High. Not because of my increasingly silly collage. I'm adding a layer of glitter and confetti to the left of the pipe cleaners, and certainly not because of Mrs. Wilde's tutelage. She might just be the oddest duck in the pond that is my new school. No, I like visual arts class because Nolan Foster always sits directly across from me. And for whatever reason, whether it's because he's hot like Ashley says or because of something else entirely, I continue to feel warm when I'm near him. Or at the very least, not freezing. Actually, I'm pretty sure Ashley wouldn't think Nolan is hot. He's nothing like Corey Cooper, who has a bright red car and a Letterman's jacket. Every day, Nolan wears the same leather jacket that he wore on the first day of school. Maybe if I were his girlfriend, he'd let me borrow it. Just the thought makes me roll my eyes at myself. You're not supposed to want to date a boy just for jacket access. Yeah, you are. Not that the jacket is the only reason I might want to date Nolan. Not that I want to date Nolan. I mean, I don't not want to date him. Oh my goodness, Sunshine, get a grip. Nolan has stuck with pipe cleaners for his collage, raiding the supply closet for all the black, white, gray, and cream-colored ones. They're twisted into a million different shapes on the table in front of him. When Mrs. Wilde leans over me to study Nolan's creations across the desk, the fringe from her lacy black shawl falls into my eyes. I know I'm in no position to judge. It's not like anyone else in town dresses the way I do. But seriously, I'm pretty sure our art teacher is the only person in Ridgemont who outfits herself like a witch in mourning. I brush the fringe from my eyes as Miss Wilde says, "Such intense work, Nolan. Where do you get your inspiration?" Without waiting for an answer, she keeps talking. "It's so clear what you're communicating about our mortality. All that black, all that death, but the dusting of white pieces in between, symbolizing hope, I assume?" Nolan nods. "Of course," he says, his voice low and serious. What could be more hopeful than white pipe cleaners? Miss Wilde keeps her eyes on his collage so Nolan can wink at me without her seeing. "All that death," she repeats softly, spinning Nolan's collage in circles on the table. "Have you always found yourself drawn to death?" "What?" Nolan sputters, caught off guard by such an odd inquiry. "Yes, Pongo?" "Come in." "Go lay down." "That's a good boy." "Ow!" Ugh. "What?" Nolan sputters, caught off guard by such an odd inquiry. Man, this teacher is weird. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to ask your 16-year-old student a question like that. "I mean, do you find yourself drawn to relics from an earlier time? Tools that were used by extinct peoples? Technology from past decades? Clothes that were worn by people now dead?" Nolan doesn't answer her. Instead, he turns pale. I eye his obviously vintage leather jacket. As soon as Miss Wilde walks away, I'm going to tell him I like vintage clothes too. But Miss Wilde doesn't walk away. Instead, she hovers at our table waiting for an answer. From across the room, a student shouts, "Miss Wilde, are we out of charcoal?" But our teacher doesn't even look away from Nolan's collage. "Miss Wilde?" Our classmate repeats louder this time. Instead of answering, she leans closer to Nolan's collage. "Miss Wilde?" I prompt. She turns sharply from Nolan's collage to me, as though noticing my presence here for the first time. I think, I don't know the name of the student across the room. "I think she needs you over there?" "Tabitha Chin," Nolan supplies. "Tabitha was asking for more charcoal." Miss Wilde shakes her head. I get the idea that she's not particularly interested in what her students are asking for. But Tabitha stands up and walks over to our table. She taps Miss Wilde on the shoulder, finally forcing her to take her eyes off of me. "I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I really wanted to finish this sketch before next period. I couldn't find any fresh charcoal in the supply closet." Tabitha pushes a few strands of her dark hair behind her ear. Across the room, the other students at her table giggle. I may not have spoken to anyone in this class besides Nolan, but I'm pretty sure we all agree on one thing. Miss Wilde is the weirdest teacher we've ever had. She might be the weirdest teacher anyone's ever had. She lets out a sigh as she walks across the room with Tabitha, off in search of sketching charcoal. "Lucky?" Nolan mutters once she's out of earshot. "Me?" "Yes, you." "Why's that?" "Tabitha distracted her before Miss Wilde could comment on your project." She probably wouldn't have liked it anyway. All this glitter and confetti aren't nearly deathly enough for her taste. Nolan nods. Now Miss Wilde is holding up Tabitha's sketch, a vase, asking whether she's meant it to be a metaphor for containers in which we live, how fleeting our bodies are, fragile as glass. No, Tabitha shakes her head. I just thought it was a pretty vase. Looking disappointed, Miss Wilde drops the sketch back onto the table and moves on. Guess she's not interested in pretty things, I say. Some of the blue glitter from my collage must have stuck to her shawl as she leaned over me. She practically sparkles under the fluorescent lights as she moves from student to student. That woman looks for death in everything, Nolan shrugs. Give her time. She'll find a way to argue that your glitter is a symbol of something maudlin. He points to the left side of my collage and puts on a high-pitched voice. We start out young and sparkly, but the passage of time ravages us until we fade away. He points to the other, so far glitter-free side of my project. Well, I can't have that, I say jokingly, upending a jar of glitter all over the other side of the collage. I lean down to blow away the excess, and promptly unleash a storm of glitter all over Nolan. Oh my gosh, I stammer, standing up. I'm such an idiot. I didn't put down glue before I sprinkled the glitter. Dummy. Don't worry about it, Nolan says, standing up to brush the glitter from his jacket. I run to the back of the classroom and grab a stack of paper towels. I'm so sorry. Sunshine strikes again, I moan, rushing to his side. The rest of the class seems utterly oblivious to the emergency going on down at our end of the table. Really, Sunshine, it's okay. Believe me, this jacket has been through worse than a glitter bomb. But it's literally the nicest jacket in the entire world, and I had to go and... Really? Nolan grins. You like it? Are you kidding? I ask, reaching out to brush some of the glitter away. The leather is warm under my fingers, wrinkled and rigid from what looks like decades of use. I bet it has that amazing old smell, the kind that you can usually find along the spines of ancient books or inside antique furniture. I lean a bit closer just to get a whiff, even though it must make me seem like the weirdest girl in the entire world, even stranger than Miss Wilde. But before I can inhale, I draw back. I step away from him and head back to my side of the table. Here, I say, holding out the paper towels, far enough away from him that I have to straighten my arm for him to reach them. Okay, seriously, what the heck just happened? 1 second I'm the weirdest girl in the world because I want to smell an old jacket, and now I'm the weirdest girl in the world because as soon as I got close enough to sniff the said jacket, I felt the irresistible urge to pull away. Something is seriously wrong with me. I've never been boy crazy like Ashley. I've never even been boy mildly insane. Back in Austin, a few days after my birthday, Ashley dragged me to one last sweaty Texas party. She said I had to get my first kiss while I was still on southern soil. I ended up dancing with Evan Richards, a boy I kind of knew from history class. He was perfectly nice and cute and willing, but by the end of the evening, his hands were on my hips and butterflies were in my stomach as his face drew close to mine. And I was ready. I mean, at the very least, I thought I should get my first kiss over with already, like Ashley suggested. But at the last second, I pulled away. It didn't feel right. Ashley said later that my expectations were too high. She thinks I just want to be swept off my feet like a Jane Austen heroine. It's just a kiss, Sunshine, she moaned. You're probably the last 16-year-old in America with virgin lips. Maybe she was right. Maybe I expect too much. Don't be ridiculous, Ashley would say if she were here. Stop wasting your time on ghosts and ghouls and wacky feelings, Sunshine, she'd add. Concentrate on that boy instead. Which is why I will never tell Ashley that being close to Nolan feels like I'm a magnet pressing up against the wrong side of another magnet. Sunshine! Earth sunshine? I look up. Nolan has taken all the paper towels from my outstretched arm. I drop my hand, folding my arms across myself. Sorry, I say quickly. Just space out there for a second. No worries. Nolan shrugs. And seriously, don't worry about the jacket. Like I've said, it's been through a lot worse, believe me. You don't get to be this old without a few bumps and bruises. He slides the jacket off and holds it up, twisting the arm so I can see the dark brown spots on the left side. See that? That's a patch from where my grandfather literally burned off the left elbow by leaving this thing too close to a campfire. He swings the jacket onto the table, splayed open so I can see the silky brown lining inside. And see that? He says, pointing to the seam along the collar. That's where my grandmother had to sew in a whole new lining when my grandfather's dog chewed out the old one. It belonged to your grandfather? I say, reaching out to trace the lining with my finger. His grandmother's stitches are perfect, tight and precise. Nolan nods, his voice dropping so Miss Wilde won't hear. It freaked me out when she asked about dead people's clothes, like maybe she's a mind reader or something. Don't let Miss Wilde freak you out, I say. She's just our kooky art teacher, not a psychic. Nolan nods, but he looks unconvinced. Plenty of people wear used clothes, I add quickly, unwrapping my scarf from my neck. I got this at a vintage shop back in Austin. I hold it out. Who knows what happened to the person who owned it before I did, right? Nolan nods, pulling his jacket off the table and sliding back into it. He sits back on his stool, so I sit back on mine too. Actually, after my grandfather passed away, my grandmother sent half his clothes to a vintage store. What happened to the other half? Nolan grins. Somehow or another, it all ended up in my closet, though I never wear anything but the jacket. Why not? I'm not sure. I guess nothing ever fit this well. I smile. Then why keep it all? Nolan smiles. My grandfather was my favorite person. I was pretty wrecked when he passed away. Guess I was just trying to hold on to him, you know? I nod, but the truth is, I don't know. My mom's parents were gone long before I came along, and I've literally never known anyone else who has died. Certainly not well enough to miss them. I never really gave much thought to what happens after we die. Well, not until we moved to Ridgemont and I started sharing a room with a ghostly presence who I'm pretty sure likes to play with my toys. What was he like? I ask. He was kind of a weird old guy, but I loved him. Nolan smiles a sad sort of smile, then shrugs. I don't know. He was just my grandfather. He lived in Washington State his whole life and could trace our family back for a half-dozen generations. His own great-grandfather had crossed the country on the Oregon Trail. Wow. I know. There's actually a street named after him in Portland. My grandfather kept a framed photo of the street sign on his desk. He pauses. I haven't really ever talked about this with anyone. He only passed away 6 months ago. I'm so sorry, I say softly. I asked my grandmother if I could have the photo, but she said no. In fact, pretty much the only thing she was willing to part with was his clothes. So you took whatever part of him you could. Nolan shrugs. I guess. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe, I know it sounds insane, but maybe part of me thought he might show up one day, looking for his stuff. I nod, smiling. Right now, it doesn't sound so insane to me. Alright, that is the end of chapter 5. Thanks for joining me, you guys. See you soon.